And we're live for 30andnerdy.com. This is
Woo!
exciting. This is going to be our Destiny conversation slash review podcast. And I guess I use the term review lightly because I feel like this is a game, because of the scope of it, because everything they have planned for it, and the fact that it's probably going to evolve at a much faster rate than a lot of games. Really, it needs a conversation versus, buy it, don't buy it, that sort of thing. You know?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So for 30andnerdy.com, I'm Matt. You can find myself and 30andnerdy's Gina on Twitter at 30andnerdy, and across from me, all the way in, we'll say San Francisco.
No, I'm actually in San Francisco proper today.
Oh, really?
I came out to my friend Nick's place yesterday, so I went from Fremont to San Francisco about midday yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm Scott William Hannon. You can find me at SW Hannon on Twitter, as well as on any number of other social media sites. So today's conversation is Destiny and our first impressions on this massively multiplayer online first-person shooter, or MMOFPS, for short.
Yeah. And,
it's developed by Bungie.
Mm-hmm.
It came out on the 9th, is that right?
September 9th.
September 9th. This is a huge game, long time in the making, 6 years, I believe, and a reported cost of $500 million, which is more than most Hollywood blockbusters by a long shot.
Yeah.
I recall when Grand Theft Auto 4 hit $100 million, that was a big moment for gaming to hit $100 million, and now we have surpassed that only a few short years later by, I think, a factor of 5, or by 5 times. Yeah. So, one of the things we wanted to address is, does Destiny live up to that $500 million hype? Does it live up to the 6-year hype? Does it live up to Bungie's reputation? And does it fit in the context of the modern online gaming environment? We've got a lot of details that we can go over in the game. Matt, how long have you been playing it?
Quick disclaimer real quick before I answer your question. Was the
Sure.
whole people listening to this in the audio version?
Oh, right.
The audio version on your ears. Awesome. Audio people, if you check out the YouTube video of this conversation, it's going to be set to gameplay footage that we captured from the PS4 version of the game. Some single player stuff, some multiplayer stuff. So if you check out the visual version of that, you can check it out that way also. To answer your question, I've been playing it since 2 a.m. on the 9th, pretty much every day. I've absolutely fallen head over heels for it, despite admittedly recognizing its multitude of, dare I say, flaws.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I haven't checked my app recently. Actually, the Destiny companion app, that you can download from, I think, both Apple's and the Android App Store. I've got it on Android. It'll actually track your gameplay progress and stats on the amount of quests you've done and things like that. And so last I checked, which was like a day or two ago, I was approaching 40 hours on it. So I probably have close to 50 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit in the short period of time. Good.
I know.
I don't think I sunk that much time into Skyrim. Actually, I sunk
really?
probably about that much time.
Okay.
And that was, that was over the course of about a year that I played that game. Maybe more like 6 months. I don't quite recall. All right, so I've played it for significantly less time than that. I think I'm probably in the 15 to 20 hour range.
Okay.
When I put it down, the character I was playing was at level 15, and I was playing a hunter. I don't know if that progresses quickly or slowly, or if the amount of time I've put into it is quick or slow. I tend to level more slowly than other people because I don't want to say I'm meticulous, but I'm thorough in my exploration, and I end up wasting a lot of time.
No, I don't know. I think in this game it's actually really good. Not only because of your ability to, I guess like the way they hide the loot in the game, and picking up items and like that kind of stuff. Not to mention, I think the game is gorgeous also. So taking it all in, I feel like I was pretty thorough on it the first time. I'm more thorough when I play by myself though, versus when I play with other people, because I think you're playing by yourself. You can go at your own pace. You can
Yeah, there's
stop
more
and
insistence on the mission when you're playing with other
yeah. Which version are you playing on? Just out of curiosity.
PS4.
Oh, you are okay. So we've been playing on the same version. I don't. When I play by myself, I stop and I stare and like my jaw drops a little bit, or I'll look at textures and just be like, oh my gosh, and then that little part of my brain that is just like blown away by how good it looks has to stop to take a moment and realizing that PC people have been looking at textures like this for the past 15 years. I don't even know.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny to see. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the competition between console and PC is always back and forth. It's really about the gameplay and whatnot. But
I know.
yeah, it's funny because PC gamers are like, yeah, we've been playing games like this for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, so first let's address like the hype going into Destiny.
Okay.
You've put up here what are the genres and who made it and what was it promising. So we've already discussed it's massively multiplayer online, first-person shooter, so MMO, FPS. These are things that the general gamer knows pretty well, either by name if not by thorough experience.
Right.
First-person shooters have been around since Wolfenstein and a little bit before. First-person games like Phantasy Star for role-playing games were back in the mid-'80s. And then MMOs are fairly new by comparison, EverQuest and World of Warcraft being major players in that arena. I don't know if something else came before that, but I think games like Battlefield also count as massively multiplayer online.
Remember like the Ultima games? Maybe those weren't massive worlds.
They were online, though. That's a good point.
Yeah, but I don't know if they were largely multiplayer games with forums and chat rooms where people could join each other versus like a giant persistent world that was just automatically being populated from people from servers and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where the dividing line is there. But so tell us about what the big deal is, specifically with Destiny being an MMO or FPS.
Well, it's the fact that like for the first time ever, and I guess one of the big things that Bungie was just, I don't know if touting's the right word, is just the fact that that while you're playing this game, it is randomly pulling other people into your experience who are also playing the game in, say like the same planets and the same areas and stuff like that. And so while you're adventuring, doing bounties, completing quests and that sort of stuff, you might just see somebody off in the distance doing like similar things, and you can run up to that person, and while you can't directly communicate with them like via voice chat, you can help them out. You can invite them to your fire team or attempt to join theirs, at which point you can talk, and it's a very social experience for a first-person shooter that has a lot of single-player elements, I guess you could say. I don't know if that explains it well.
Well, I felt like I mean, you're right on. That's precisely the experience. I felt like it emulated Journey quite a bit in its multiplayer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Did you ever play that?
Yeah, I played it a little bit. I admittedly didn't go all the way through it. It
takes like an hour to finish.
I know. I'm ashamed of myself.
Yeah, you gotta.
I never wanted to admit that publicly.
Well, now it's all over the internet. The way Journey works is that it just will drop in somebody into the level that you're playing, and you don't have any way to communicate with them other than running around in circles, or you have this little button that throws a symbol above your head that it's kind of like an echolocating device almost, where you can see that symbol go up from across the level.
Okay.
So you can pinpoint where that person's at and then run up to them, but you can't hear them over your headset. There's no verbal communication between the two. You're just on this journey together, and you have to make it to the end of the level, and there's not really anything you can do for each other, unlike in Destiny, where you both have guns and you both have enemies that you're fighting. Journey doesn't have anything but obstacles to jump over or enemies to run away from, so you can't really help out the way you could in a first-person shooter, where you can, what I like to do is snipe from across the level while everyone else is in an intricate firefight.
Yeah.
So Destiny is attempting to blend two very popular styles of video game, or genres of video game.
Mm-hmm.
And leading into that, they had alpha and beta testing. Did you play any of those?
No, I didn't. But I followed them. Like as far as like I knew when they were happening, while they were happening. You know, I would check up on online impressions, people's like YouTube videos that they posted and whatnot. And every single time I watched somebody play it, I just felt so underwhelmed by what I was seeing. It just looked incredibly generic. It didn't really. I don't know, it just didn't look fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
What were your expectations then going into the game?
Oh man, I was literally torn about whether or not I was gonna get the game up until I don't know a handful of hours before I decided to download it. So the game came out Tuesday. I went to a barbecue at my sister's house on I think it was the Saturday or Sunday before that, and her boyfriend's like a really big Bungie fan, big Xbox gamer, and was just like so pumped up about Destiny. And we were talking with him about it, and and said like, okay, well, we'll show us some of the cool things you've seen about the game, trailers, gameplay footage, previews, and stuff like that. And it was we joked that even everything he showed us, combined with his excitement, couldn't get us excited for this game, and we kept knocking on it and calling it, like. We'd say things like, I think the problem is we played this game years ago when we played Borderlands and Mass Effect and Halo.
Or what it was called Halo.
Yeah, and so it just looked like bits of various experiences that we more thoroughly explored in other games, and that was my problem with it. I was like, why am I going to spend $60 on something that looks like a rehash, And so Gina said, my wife, she says, you're going to get it. So just download it. And by you're going to get it, she half meant you're going to get it, and she half meant think about how cool it'll be to be a part of this, open kind of like persistent world experience, and everybody's excited about it, and you got your PS4 and your camera, and you can do like live streams on it, and how there's supposed to be like raids, and the multiplayer is good, and like all that stuff you can share online, and basically how many times is a game like this going to come along, and do you really want to miss out on it? And I was kind of like, I felt like I was cracking to peer pressure. So I guess to answer your question in the most simplest of forms, I was not excited about it until about 1 hour before I was finally going to download it and whatnot. And, well, how about you? Were you anticipating it or anything?
No, I didn't play any of the alpha or betas, and I regularly confused it with Titanfall, which is ridiculous because they're
lighting and Sci-Fi.
Because they're very different games, but I confused them because I was equally uninterested in them both, and I don't know. I feel like a first-person shooter has to do something really special now because I've been playing them for so long,
Same
and. And I haven't, I felt like Halo 3 was a perfect game, or very nearly perfect, or at least the perfect Halo experience.
Yeah.
And I really wanted Bungie to do something different, and Destiny was another Halo-looking game. And so I wasn't interested. I didn't have any particular expectations, except I expected it to play and feel just like Halo. And that slides us into how do you feel about the core mechanics of the game? It plays and feels just like Halo.
Yeah,
which is great because Halo's controls are amazing.
Right,
and they're perfect, and they've had 14 years or 13 years to smooth out and perfect those.
Yeah. When Halo came out, at least for me personally, not being a PC gamer, I never really experienced anything quite like it, and it was a phenomenon, for me and my friends, much like it was for a lot of peer groups and stuff like that. And then after Halo had been out for a while and people were able to more, critically analyze it compared to other first-person shooters and things that they were doing, and people noticed that Halo does this thing where when you're aiming with a weapon, at least in the single-player campaign, and you're pretty close to lining up the cursor with like an enemy's head or something like that, the game will do this thing where it'll kind of like suck your aiming reticle a little bit over so that you have like perfect aim, and it makes you feel really, really good. And as soon as I started playing Destiny, and I saw that happening right away, where it would be like I'd be aiming right around the character's neck, and then I watched my aiming reticle kind of like suck up for a headshot on its own. I was like, holy crap, they took the same concept of kind of like helping you out just that little bit to make you feel really good about playing this game as one of the steps that they were taking to make the core mechanics feeling really good, and I immediately felt like, wow, I'm playing a Bungie game. Even just from that.
That's funny. I don't know if I've noticed that. I mean, I go for headshots constantly because I like to snipe.
Really? You can, sometimes it works too well, and I don't even know if it's something that you can turn off, where lightly put your aiming reticle, say, by like just to the left or right of like an enemy's shoulder area, and watch the game suck your aiming reticle over to the actual body of the enemy without you actually doing it. Yeah.
Interesting. I remember GoldenEye had auto assist that you could turn on and off.
Okay.
And depending on the game style we were playing, whether it was one-hit kills or like full body armor or something like that, we would change.
Yeah. I don't know why they started doing it. I almost suspect that back in the days of like Halo 1, it was something where the whole concept of a dual analog, control for like movement and aiming was like this new thing, and so they were like, all right, we're going to help people along. But doing it this day and age, after we've been playing with this control setup that it feels like they basically pioneered on consoles, it's weird that they still do it. But at the same time, the game feels so good. Can we really fault it? I don't know.
I remember when we were first introduced to the dual analog sticks. I remember my first experience with that was Red Faction.
Oh, yeah, okay.
A lot of people were, starting with GoldenEye, people were like, "Oh, finally, consoles get first-person shooters," and now we're in competition with the PC industry because now we don't have a genre that we can't do. Except people forgot about RTS games, which are just miserable on consoles. Those absolutely require a mouse. But a lot of people were saying that PC gamers were saying they hated playing first-person shooters on consoles because they didn't have their mouse for aiming, and you can get really precise aiming when you're using a mouse.
Yeah.
So I think some developers tried to smooth out aiming techniques with the dual analog sticks by giving you a little bit of assistance.
Okay.
And that's almost certainly the case with GoldenEye because you weren't using two analog sticks. You're using one analog stick and the C buttons.
Yeah.
Which never bothered me, but I can see why someone going from a mouse to a digital button would be pretty annoyed by it.
Yeah, it probably just felt like garbage to them.
Yeah. If you had a strong preference for keyboard and mouse, you wouldn't shift over to an N64 controller. Please, even slightly. But for the most part, Destiny plays just like Halo. In fact, all the buttons I think are the same. No, that's not true. Although it changed over time. Like your grenade button changed from the black button to eventually one of the bump buttons, and I guess.
Oh yeah.
But this is the hardest part about describing a video game. This is the most ephemeral and ineffable aspects. Is how does a game feel? And so much of that has to do with the controls and how responsive they are. And it's so funny because the engine that they use makes such a big difference in how the game feels, and I really don't know how to explain it. Some games feel good if there's a little bit of lag or if it's a little sloppy, and other games are frustrating as hell if it's even the slightest bit slow. I feel like Bungie's games, it's alright if they're a little bit slow. It's okay if it's a little sloppy. Enemies are moving around a lot, and there's such a wide expanse that you have plenty of time to either catch up or reroute. Whereas maybe a game like Counter-Strike, you want really precise controls because you're in a confined space and you've got to get the right shot very quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that being said, piggybacking you a little bit, I think one of the things that makes this game feel so great mechanically is the technology under the hood. Not from a visual standpoint, but just, like, for example, whatever graphics engine, or just rather like straight-up engine technology that they're using to power the game, I don't know if it's based on anything that they've used for Halo, but Bungie games always have a certain weight to them, and it's felt, in the way that you you move and you jump and things like that. Everything from like throwing a grenade and watching it stick to an enemy, and the ragdoll physics that they have in place when like bodies go flying or like debris rolls down hills and stuff like that. I had this moment early on in the game where I didn't really know the buttons that well, and I was playing a Titan, and I hit the buttons to make my character do like his ground stomp move, which emits a shockwave.
Is that from a Titan?
Yeah, it was from a Titan, and there were like cans of something on this hill where I was, and I made that shockwave, and it hit the cans, and all of a sudden I watched them roll down the hill, and they were just like they should. They were rolling down the hill perfectly, and they hit a bend in the hill, and they curved in the other direction. And I was just like, I love that, because it makes you feel like you're actually in this living, breathing space that is going to react to your every move,
Have you ever seen the video from Skyrim? Not to just go ahead and trounce this. But, there's a PC gamer who released 40,000 wheels of cheese at the top of a mountain.
No, did it break the game?
No, not even close. In fact, I mean, this is how strong the game is and how strong this guy's PC was, is that he released 40,000 wheels of cheese from a hill, and they all started rolling down, and he then ran after them. And so he's running down the hill, and there are all these wheels of cheese like bouncing down, and they all collect in this little valley, in this little ditch, and he runs and he jumps into the cheese, and then he can't get out. Because he's covered with cheese.
Because the weight of it is just like...
So it was like being stuck in the tastiest ball pit ever.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But he was stuck, and the game didn't stop. He just couldn't get out because he was covered in, probably a metric ton of cheese.
Wow.
But
that's awesome.
The game rendered every one of those wheels of cheese rolling down the hill in its own pace and its own physics, right? Mm-hmm. Really impressive.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But yeah, so it's similar along the lines. Like it's cool to see the pieces reacting like that. Something I missed, something that didn't ever catch on from Red Faction was geomodding. We can't blow apart stuff yet. Yeah. And I understand that that's really processor intense, and when you keep trying to up the graphics and up the scale of the world, it gets really tough to make everything moddable. But Battlefield does it to a certain extent. You can take out buildings and things like that.
Yeah.
And EDF does it, but very with really light graphics, we'll call it, just to be nice.
Okay. Yeah.
It's really cheesy. Like you blow it up and it breaks into little pieces and it crushes and it just disappears.